And if that person isn't performing well, regardless of weather, regardless of how the person is feeling, if they're hurt or anything, they'll just go and try to micromanage the person or send them home or move into a different area, so that, or like trade people. They talk on the radios. Like I said, we communicate in the warehouse over the radios, and they talk about people like they're objects. Like, yeah, I'll trade you this guy for this other person. Oh yeah, he's a piece of shit. That's the kind of language that they have with respect to workers. It's a really shitty environment.
But I already told you about what's going on today. We are going to be interviewing someone who's on the ground at UPS, and they're going to give us some information about the UPS strike. Now, as it stands, I'm going to tell you what my position on the UPS strike is, based on what I'm aware of. I support the strike. I support this strike. Seems like the Teamsters are signing off on it, and they're going to do it. But I don't have any information on it. That's the thing. I really know nothing about it beyond the news. So this is someone on the ground who's going to be giving us information about what's going on at the UPS strike. So without any further ado, let me drag him up.
Okay, I think the stream is muted now, yeah.
All right, so it's right?
Oh, let's go with communal. But yeah, sure. Well, my name is but yeah, let's call me communal for the time being because I'm still employed at UPS.
Oh shit, my bad, man.
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay. I'm right, yeah, it's fine.
You work at UPS, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, and I've been hearing about the potential for a UPS strike for a pretty long time. I think it was in February or January. When was it that you first...
It was around February, yeah.
Around February, yeah. So you've been on the ground, you've been witnessing this whole thing unfold.
I have, yeah. So yeah. I've also worked at UPS through the whole pandemic, so I know how it all unfolded within the company and all of it. So I'm really excited to give y'all some insight about this.
Okay, sure. First, I think I want to ask, what's the why is this happening now as opposed to like during the pandemic or later? Like what led to this point where people at UPS wanted to go on strike?
So I think it's happening now because around the time of the pandemic, they had already settled a contract, and I think someone may correct me, but I think it's every 4 years they renegotiate a contract, 4 or 3 years, something like that. And so this year was the year of renegotiation, so that's why it's happening this year. And
as far as the negotiations are concerned, is there any red line, or is it a bunch of different things that people at UPS want?
So I can go over it. I actually made a couple pages of notes because I wanted to give y'all, I was listening to some interviews on YouTube, and a lot of the people, they're on the union side, and being on management side, I think I would be able to offer a unique perspective into the inside working of it, so that would complement a lot of the info that people following us here might see on the outside from union voices. So I have a couple pages of notes
So are you part of the union or what is it?
No, so this is the thing. I have my dad is in the union, but my mom and myself were in management.
And management is against the union, Teamsters?
So the way that it works is we're both part of the same team. Lower management and the unions, we basically do the same kind of work at different capacities. But at the end of the day, we're all getting our hands dirty just as well. But upper management tries to pit management against the unions, union members, through various ways, which I can detail very briefly about.
Sure.
So yeah, which direction do you want to go? Because I kind of wanted to establish a background, and then from there you can ask me questions, and we can go more in depth into what's going on.
Sure, yeah, you can establish the background. Sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, alrighty. So I've been working at UPS since 2019. And just so y'all know, yes, I'm in management, but every person in management started as an union employee. So I started off as a loader. I was loading for 2 weeks, and then I was doing really well. They saw that I had a college degree, and they asked me to become a soup, and then it went on from there. So every low-level management started as an union member, and unless they go to a full-time position, which is very competitive and difficult to get in, they're going to remain in the same boat as all the part-time union employees. So, let's see. There was an interview that I watched, as I'm going through this, I'm just going to keep bringing some facts, but there was an interview that I watched earlier with Sean O'Brien, who is the general president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, and he was talking about how like, what do the Teamsters want? He was asked. And he was basically saying that UPS has this rhetoric that full-timers make $93,000 a year, which is partly true, but that's not like their base pay. And these people, my dad is one of them, works like 60 to 65 hours a week to make something like that amount. And there's 100,000 part-timers in the union that make less than $20 an hour, because the actual contract between management and the union is at $15.50 an hour. And so now after the whole pandemic and UPS seeing $100 billion in profit and a 50% increase in the dividend payout to stockholders, people on the ground are seeing all of this in the news, and we're like, we don't have working equipment. We don't have. There are days that there isn't enough water to be distributed. The AC sometimes don't work. Ice machines don't work. So these people are saying all this money, but nothing is coming to us, the people actually making the money, the profit, right? So ultimately, it comes down to economics. What the Teamsters want. They want more money for part-time employees. They want to eradicate something known as a two-tiered employment system and like a pay system for drivers, which is basically something like you get a big bump in pay, but you don't get it right away. You get it over a certain period of time, and by the time that you get your full raise, it's like inflation has already caught up, and that's already not enough, And the other big point is that they want AC in vehicles, which is crazy to think that all of these brownies, all these trucks that you see driving out, they don't have AC. They have freaking fans. And the reason, but check this out. There's no truck company that makes these trucks without AC. UPS actually removes them and puts in a fan in order to save on gas. Can you believe this?
Yeah.
So
I get it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I'll share more on the language because they actually went over the AC in vehicles over the contract, and I'll share more about this in a little bit. But so there's two main lines rather within UPS with respect to more pay for part-timers. And this is both from management and union. So there are those people who think that part-timers don't deserve it because they don't work hard enough, and they see it as only part-time anyway, so you shouldn't depend on that job for your main to pay all your big bills. You should just really work there for your benefits, because there are lawyers and engineers who work there at UPS just for the benefits, just for the health benefits. And then there's the other camp of people who think that they deserve it, and I'm on this camp because basically I'm on the front line with them, right? And very bluntly speaking, if they get that raise, if they go on strike and UPS folds and they get their raise, that means I get a raise. So I'm all for it.
So what I'm interested in knowing is, within the rank and file at UPS, which force is driving the strike? Which force is driving the sentiment for a strike? Is it united completely, or are there more people at UPS more disposed to wanting to do this as opposed to others?
Although there's these two camps, there are more people willing to go on strike than there are people opposing the strike. So the main sentiment is like, if UPS doesn't give in, then we're ready to go. And that's precisely why they have the go-ahead from the International Brotherhood to go on strike, is because UPS hasn't been taking their demands seriously.
So my question is, among part-timers, they're the majority, I imagine, who work at UPS, right? Or no?
They're the majority working within the warehouses. So they're the people unloading the trucks, sorting the boxes, and loading.
What are the main reasons why they're part-time? Is UPS unwilling to hire more full-time people, or? That's
correct. So the way that it works, there is like basically a queue for you to become full-time, and it depends.
I've worked at a warehouse before, so there's something similar to that. Yeah. So, so I see these are people who mainly aspire to work full time, but they can't do it immediately, basically.
Or they're just students. They're
they're genuinely working full time. Yeah, I understand. So it's kind of like a precarious position, basically, more or less.
It is, but here's the thing. So if you work 30 days, then you automatically become part of the union. They start taking $50 every month total for union dues, and you like as soon as the 30 days hit, you get all of these protections, which is something that I wanted to start touching on from the management side, because this is when it's gonna like this is where it gets to the nitty-gritty of why people think that UPS is not paying them fairly.
Okay, so before we get into that, I just want to ask one last question. What would you say the turnover rate before the 30 days is? Is it very often that people get fired before the 30 days, or what happens in that period? Is it kind of a difficult thing to maintain?
UPS don't like to fire people. People just kind of like quit on their own.
Okay.
Because and precisely because of how they manage their operation day to day.
Okay, I see. So please continue. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, so basically cover the the gist of it, and I kind of want to give you an idea of like the day in the operation. So like what happens in a day? Why is it so shitty? And it doesn't have to be so shitty. I'm a communist, capital C communist, and I like systems. I'm one of those like Norbert Wiener nerds who really into cybernetics, and I look at UPS as this complex system, and I look at all these different parts and how can we make these parts work well together. And there's so many ways, and I'm not the only person who thought of this. So like knowing that things can be better and seeing the way it is really frustrating. So let's go into the operation. So UPS has contracts with all of these different businesses. So they're able to have a projection of the volume of all of the packages that are coming in every day for like 6 months in advance. And the variability in volume comes down to like promotional sales by Amazon or this or that business. People mailing shit interstate or within the US to each other and so on. But basically, they have a projection for everything that's coming in up to 6 months in advance, so they can plan accordingly, right? So let's see. So the warehouse, and this goes for every single warehouse, they're basically organized as the primary, which is where the loads of the trucks come in, where they are unloaded. And then so you have all of these boxes that are coming into the warehouse, and we have all these conveyor belts to assist this process. And then they're sorted by people who have to have training on, where the packages go within the building. So we have like a color-coded belt system. And so like say you get a package that goes to Hawaii, you send it to like middle red, which it goes to this area in the outbound where it goes into a truck that ship shit to Hawaii or California and so on. So anyway, so let's say like today's volume is like 100,000 packages, and we know that we have and I'm gonna be quick, Hayes. I'm gonna be like 5 minutes with this, so we can go on to the questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so we have like 100,000 packages today. We're expected, and we have the given number of people that we have hired. So we have an expected number of people coming in. And then there's a simple calculus that they do in order to determine like the actual number of people that they need. And this all comes, and this is done every single day so that they can meet the productivity goals. So the calculus is done like this. So you have the given, you have your volume, you have the total number of employees that you have on pay, and you have the length of the shift. And this varies like day to day, but it's on average like 4.5 hours, sometimes 3.5, 3.9. They use like a decimal system. But anyway, so you have pay day, which is the total hours and the total number divided by the total number of people expected. You have just three. You have process rate, which is the volume divided by the paid day. And you have the PPH, which is the packages per hour, which is the volume divided by the actual number of people in the building. So with the number of like 100,000, just so you can run a quick maths here, and we have a total staffing of 250, but 200 people show up, our payday would be 5 hours, a process rate of 20,000, and a PPH of 100. So what does this mean? This means that the people, as they're unloading the packages and sorting it out, they have to do it at a pace equivalent to 20,000 packages per hour. That would give us a 5 hours payday, like so that we would come down, we'd finish the shift on time, and every person has to like basically handle 100 packages per hour, which is like this is like basic. This is almost accurate. I have an actual like sort plan here in front of me, and the numbers are almost equal. It's a little higher, but anyway, so all of these numbers and the idea is to, for example, they play the numbers game that all of the full-timers, everyone knows about, but no one really knows how to explain. The numbers game is this. You minimize your paid day, which is total hours, divided by the expected number of people, to maximize your process rate, which is the volume by the payday. And this is how beyond this, outside of this, I don't know how it all works, how it converts into profit generation, but this is the scope of my knowledge. So that's the numbers game that they're playing, and this numbers game leads into their operational pedagogy, which is if the primary isn't flowing enough packages, and they're always tracking this. We communicate with radios over in the warehouse, and it'll be like, what's the shift manager would be like, what's the flow? And then the simulation person would say the flow, and if it's not high enough, he has to make adjustments. We bring people from the outbounds out of their areas into the primary in order for them to unload, to increase the process rate. And then as the process rate increases, work is being created in their areas, and then they're moved back to their areas where they loaded or continue sorting or whatever. And this leads into the grievance system, which is like part of the contract that the union has with management, where if a grievance is basically a circumstance regarded as just cause for protest. So if a part-timer and a full-timer sees, a full-time supervisor sending people home, then that means that they're creating more work for all of the other people, which is a just cause for protest. And the way they protest, quote unquote, is by filing a grievance, which then is paid out to them every quarter. So there are people who literally make $10,000 to $30,000 every 3 months on grievances, and so that's why they have paychecks of $110,000, $93,000, or whatever, which is not their base pay. They're just like taking advantage of the system to get compensated for the extra work that UPS created for them. And I don't know how like the nitty-gritty of the grievance system, but it's something like you get your lunch times 3, so it's a pretty hefty sum that they get paid. So that's basically that. And so where should I go from here? So to achieve these production goals, which is basically like the PPH for the whole building for the entire sort, which is very carefully tracked, they will even like call people before the shift and ask if they want to go home if they know that the volume and the number of people they expect to come in isn't going to generate the PPH that they require for the production of the day. If they know they're not gonna make it, then they start calling people to stay home. I kid you not. They do that so that the supervisors, the part-time supervisors, pick up the slack. So every area, for example, the whole building is organized into different areas, and every area, ideally, say for an outbound area, you need 10 people to absolutely run smoothly. They always give you 2 or 3 less people than you actually need to operate your area. So everyone, including part-time supervisor, are required to work extra hard. And supervisors are not meant to work. It's part of the contract. That's why they have a grievance system where they grieve supervisors for it. We're not supposed to touch packages, yet every single day it's almost expected that we work just as hard as an hourly to keep up with the volume. So that's it, Hayes. That's basically what I wanted to discuss. I'm actually writing an essay about this because I want to go in more in depth, but that's all I have to share for now.
Okay, sure. So regarding the strike, where does this factor in for how it's gotten to a tipping point where people are ready to kind of organize and demand better conditions?
Given how they do things every day, like every single day they make it harder for us. Like if the volume is light, if like there aren't enough packages, like a light day for us is 100,000, a heavy day is 150,000. If it's a light day, they will scale the difficulty of the work so that so it feels like a heavy day regardless, even though there aren't a lot.
Why is that? If you don't mind me asking, why do they do that?
Well, it's why I cover the whole production goals is in order, and like I said, I don't know how outside of this it becomes profit, but like for example, I'm basically like a lead supervisor. That's why I know all of this. Not every supervisor has all of this knowledge about the operation. I would go to the pre-sort meetings, and we go over the volume, we go over the planned flow, the process rate, and all of the grievances and everything before the shift starts. So we have I'm looking at an example here. I have a pre-sort where the PPH for a day with 130 loads totaling 128,000 packages, the PPH would be 123. So given all the little calculations that I made earlier, the PPH would come out to 123, and that's what they have to do, the meet. By cutting people, which is a term for sending people home early, in order to minimize the payday, in order to maximize the process rate,
but if it's recuperated anyway as in the grievance system, right? Or
yeah, but not every person gets to participate in this grievance system. I think that's the thing that I don't know fully. I haven't read the contract entirely. But part-timers, because of seniority, the money grieved goes to the stewards and the full-timers primarily. I don't think that the part-timers get some of it. They may get a little bit, but the majority of the money that is grieved in total goes to the stewards and full-timers.
So as a supervisor, what is it you do at UPS?
So for example, I've been in every different area within the company. Right now, I'm in what is known as a sort aisle. So basically, I am right in front of where the packages are unloaded, and so we deal with everything that comes at us. And I have a team of 11 sorters, which are basically teens, 19-year-olds, 21, 22, 23-year-olds. And I work alongside them just as hard. I'm not supposed to. I am the most grieved supervisor, which I wear it as a badge of honor. That means that I'm liked by the union. I'm the most grieved supervisor because I'm just working, but I'm not. I'm supposed to control the flow, move people around. But I just feel bad seeing how hard the work is, and I just jump in to help out all the time.
So what is the stance of most of the supervisors on the strike? And are they united? Are they do they form?
No.
Okay.
So a lot of the supervisors are they're the kind of people who became a supervisor because they didn't want to work. They wanted the higher pay and less work, but they got tricked because they worked just as much.
Well, what do they do if it's going to be, what do they do as a supervisor? What is their job? Do they just oversee the workers?
So yeah, so basically they're walking around with a Hub X, which is a little phone, and they're doing managerial tasks related to performance. They're seeing, is this person, if you're in the sort out, I would be doing things like paying attention to the boxes that the sorter is sorting to make sure that they're just putting the right box in the right position to create less work in the outbounds. You're making sure that they're following methods or standards of lifting and lowering so they don't injure themselves. But because, like I said, because of the way that they operate their business, their operation, we don't have time for that. We simply don't. And we're expected to be doing whatever union work in the area that we supervise. So if you're in the sort out, instead of doing managerial stuff, you're sorting, you're unloading or loading.
So over at Amazon, is this stuff that they're already automating, or is it the same at Amazon? The same kind of system?
I think it's the same as Amazon. So there are different subsystems within the UPS where they have achieved automation. My hub is one of the largest in the East Coast, but I know that the biggest one, the World Hub in Kentucky, they have entire systems that are automated. Like the small sort system is entirely automated. The sorting system is automated. So they're already pushing for this. They have bought facilities around me for millions of dollars where they're planning to create automated facilities and turn the ones that the warehouse that I work now as like a storage warehouse in the future.
So where does most of the management stand in regard to the strike?
So upper management absolutely hate everyone else, like lower management union, and like they always talk shit. I used, like I said, I used to go to their meetings and it's just shit talking, and they don't think that these people deserve the raises. Neither the part-time supervisors that work for them nor the part-time union members. And these people are salaried, so they work like 40 to 50 hours a week. They make, fixed amount of money. They get paid once a month. And they get their bonuses at the end of the year, which is a nice sum, like $15,000-$20,000 extra every year. So they think that instead of giving like this universal raise to all of the part-timers, they wanna have the ability to control the raises, so that if someone deserves it based on attendance and performance and whatever else, then they'll get that raise. And if someone else doesn't, they don't get the raise. That's how they want to keep it.
Right, I see. So my question, I don't know if you know that much about, I don't want me to talk about Amazon, but why is this happening at UPS as opposed to maybe Amazon? Do you know why that would be, or?
I mean, I know that recently Amazon, it's not the entire Amazon, right? Like I forgot that guy. His name something Smalls. That he became
Smalls.
Yeah. So was that for the entire Amazon? I actually don't know, or don't remember.
The Amazon labor union. I think I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. I think it's only one place actually.
Right, so that's why. Yeah. So only one place was able to secure a union contract, and the reason that is happening at UPS is because UPS hires from Teamsters for their entire warehouse operation, and drivers too.
And Teamsters, was there reluctance on their part to pursue a strike, or what were the factors behind Teamsters agreeing to take action about this stuff?
That's a good question. I think that it comes. So I remember I was actually starting. I even have it half finished, but I was writing an essay about how the state of the unions of today, right? And because I have good relationships with a lot of people in the union at UPS, and I remember a lot of stewards. I would observe how, if part-timer would take concerns to them, and they would, they seem like they take it seriously, but behind the scenes they weren't doing much because they were comfortable getting, they're a top rate. They get like $55 an hour plus the grievance check. So and this guy, one of these stewards that I have in mind, he has like a boathouse in New Hampshire. He has his own house in Mass. He has like a Raptor, like all of these things, right? He's like doing very well. So he's not necessarily that like ready to go on a strike or anything, but I'm sure like all of them, because of whatever pressure now, they're all willing to jump on it. But in the past, they were not like that like excited to for the possibility of strike, because I always like ask people about striking and things like that. So I don't know why now. I think it has to do with like, I don't know, maybe complaints got to their head from all the full timers and their high turnover rate, people quitting all the time, more work, and seeing all the profits in the news, but we're not seeing any. So I don't know. There's a lot of factors.
I'm a little confused. Are part-timers part of the union after 30 days, right?
Yes.
So are part-timers the ones driving the push for a strike, or is that coming from full-timers? Like, where's the pressure coming from, do you think?
That I'm not sure. I'm not very familiar with the internal politics of Teamsters, like as to know who is driving this primarily. Because I know that
in February there was a chance Teamsters wasn't gonna take it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this kind of sentiment has to be coming from somewhere, right?
Sure, I think so. I remember I was one of the first people outside, like in management, in my hub, that heard about a push for $30 pay for part timers, and I only heard this because I have good relationship with a full timer, and he told me that he heard from a manager in Watertown that there would be a push for $30 an hour. And so when I heard that, I shared with people, but they're all like, "Oh yeah, that's never gonna happen. UPS will never pay that much." Now here we are.
So there's someone else in my chat, Joe Sislak. I think they do work at UPS and they know a lot about Teamsters. Would you mind if they also come in and
yeah, I see here. He just said he's familiar with the internal politics of Teamsters. Let's have him on.
Yeah, Joe, if you're in the Discord, If he's not in the Discord, give him an invite, guys. And just go into show queue and I'll drag you up and you could let us know more about that. But in the meantime, the strike, if it does happen, you think UPS will cave like immediately? Or well, here's something interesting. UPS, it's so vital for the economy, as we all know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a strike at UPS, I mean, that's going to have a devastating effect on the U.S. economy. Is there a chance, there may be a stretch, but is there a chance the U.S. government intervenes like they did with the railway strike?
I was about to bring that up. I think so. I think that they would get involved with the strike for sure. Because, like, I mean, I don't want to go too far out, but Teamsters is like the other side of the coin of, like, you know, the CIA in a way. Like they were involved with the assassination of JFK, blah blah. But I think they would take the government side but not without UPS overworking every single management person for a week. It would be like a week of hard labor, and then they would process all the packages that they can, and then cave in, because they're already training supervisors to shift the trucks, to deliver the packages.
We already have supervisors not in the union?
No, we're not in the union at all. We can get fired at will. There's no protection whatsoever.
Management in the union, that's not how this works.
Yeah, come on.
No, I'm just not. Yeah. So management
of course.
Management starts out, like you said, working normally.
Yeah, I was a union member before I got promoted.
Oh, you were in the union before, and then once you become a supervisor, you're no longer...
The second... Yeah. So all right, so I got to preface, because you called me in here, right?
Yeah.
But I am a Teamster, okay? I'm a truck driver. I drive an 18-wheeler, Teamster member. I don't work for UPS. I work for a different company. However, I'm a volunteer organizer because I believe in fucking civil unionism, as in I'm a union member, so I'm gonna put my free time back into the fucking union, because they're the ones holding me down, making sure I got my bag and shit. Right. You know, they're representing me, so, you know, I go down, I volunteer at the hall, I go out on organizing drives, all that shit, right? So that's how I spend my time, right? So I work a lot with the paid organizers, you know, our representatives and stuff like that. And in my region, we got a bunch of UPS facilities, because I live in a major Midwestern city, all right? So there's a couple things, maybe because I don't know about our guest here, right? I don't know how he is with how he operates within UPS capacity. I don't know what his exact positions on the whole union side of things is, but I'm hearing some misinformation. That's why I want to kind of squash this shit a little bit, because what you're describing about how grievances work, I feel like, I don't know, for me, and I don't like to be cynical, you know, it just seems like a little bit of misinformation. I don't know if it's because maybe you're not fully up on how grievance process.
I'm not fully up on it. No, that's the way.
Right. That's good, because I don't want to come in here swinging and shit. Maybe you're just misinformed, but this is how grievances work. Because I'm a steward, right? I'm a steward at my job. All right, I don't work for UPS, but I'm a union steward. I was elected by my boys in the shop to represent them. So this is how a grievance works. We got our contract, right? That's what we agreed to. This is the contract describes everything. Describes your pay. You know, just as this is more for the audience. I'm sure you realize this, but your contract describes your pay, describes your benefits. But beyond all that shit, which is, you know, critical, that's what people give a fuck about. What it actually describes is your job description, exactly what your responsibilities are, exactly how management is allowed to treat you, what they're allowed to do, and stuff like that. So there's a lot more encompassing in a contract just beyond basic economic stuff. So I'm in contract negotiation right now. So like with my company. So I know what's up. I know how this stuff works. Now, whenever a breach of contract occurs, we go ahead and a union member is being his rights on the job are being violated because that contract ensures what his rights are. So those contractual rights are being violated. We go ahead and we do what's called filing a grievance. So that's where this grievance word comes from.
It comes from the union then, right?
Yes, absolutely, okay. Always. It can only come from the union. The company can file other motions if they feel like there's foul play and shit, but that's not really a thing.
Yeah.
So we go ahead and file a grievance because this guy is getting fucked over on the job, whether it be because of his, so like what you're talking about with payouts and situations like that, how that is going to arise when a man's work is being taken from him.
No, that's why I wanted to go into the, I kind of skipped over it, but like you're saying really quickly, the union guarantee, part of the contract is a person is guaranteed like X numbers of hours of work, like 3.5 hours of work, right? And so if this person is asked to leave before that amount, or if they agree to it, how does a grievance come into play at that moment if someone else grieves?
So
like this home and now I'm working, I'm taking his money away basically, and another person can grieve me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So like this is how the Teamsters, whatever local, whatever, has an exact contract with yours. And I'd like to make it also clear that the UPS, while it is a national company and the Teamsters nationally represent the UPS, we have what's called a national contract, which is what the big national potential strike is about. And then you have regional contracts, which are supplemental to this national contract. So an employee in Washington State, or Portland, Oregon, or some shit, one of these northwestern cities where wages are generally higher, they're going to be at a different pay rate and have different things, clauses and such inside their regional contract than a worker in Beaumont, Texas. You know what I mean? So like that's where a regional contract comes into play. But it's like kind of like how the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or whatever, like the federal law supersedes the state laws in a way. Well, this is how Teamsters have it. We have a national law, if you will, the national contract, but we realize that that's a blanket contract ain't gonna work between guys in New York City and Huntsville, Alabama. All right. So on top of that, supplemental to that, we got the regional contracts, which are more tailor-made for guys down in their local areas. Okay. So per maybe your contract, a guy is guaranteed he's going to work a certain amount of hours, right? If you're in violation of that and you're sending a guy home early, you just took bread out of his mouth. You know what I mean? You just took money from his bag because he's taken that job understanding that he's going to be guaranteed a certain amount of work. Okay. So that's where a grievance would come into play if that's within your regional contract, and it's not all across the board. So he's going to go ahead and he's going to go to his shop steward and say, hey man, I got sent home early. They're taking my bag. I need some representation here. So then his union steward is going to go ahead and file a grievance, and that's where you're going to see a payout, because if it's found that it's within the contract that his rights were violated and he didn't get to work, let's say 40 hours out of the last month because he was getting sent home early, then he's going to get 40 hours worth of compensation. And we might even be trying to be, especially in a contract year like this, we may be trying to stick it to them extra. We might be trying to penalize them and shit. So we might be saying, okay, well, it's 40 hours, right? But now we're going to say, okay, but now we're going to apply a penalty to that. We're going to push for penalty pay on top of that.
So Joe, why? What is the incentive for UPS to be doing this? If they're just going to be hit with a grievance, why do they still let people off early? Okay, so there's two ways that this manifests itself, because like I have the same situation at my job all the time. One thing that will happen is this will come from management. They'll say we want to reduce working hours, and a lot of that has to do with they've run the numbers, they've run the math. It's more because the guy actually has to go and actually use the proper channels to like file a grievance, and grievance processes can take upwards of a month. So they're not easy to do. They're not, and
you don't always win. Sometimes I can walk in with what I think is an open and shut grievance case, and I can get and management can stonewall me, and then they take it to what's called arbitration, where the National Labor Review Board has to get involved. And those guys, a lot of times, they don't give a fuck. They're not exact. They're supposed to be impartial arbiters, but that's usually not the case. So
the National Labor Review, is that UPS or is that Teamsters?
No, National Labor Review Board is a federal body.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, it's complicated. Don't get me wrong. So
they take it to the government, And then the government usually takes UPS's side, is what you're saying?
Well, they'll take a lot of times they take the pro-company side. It doesn't matter if it's UPS or whatever company, because National Labor Review Board is just for any union arbitration between a company and a union. This was set up by FDR.
I remember Ben Burgess mentioned it in the with the whole. I remember what it is now. I just kind of got.
But these officials of the NLRB are appointed by the executive branch. So that's why, like, historically speaking, and I ain't no fucking Democrat shill, but historically speaking, that's why union favors the Democrats, because historically speaking, executive branch, if it's Democrat, like when Biden versus Trump's NLRB was pulling all types of fucking crazy obscure laws. They'll pull labor laws from the 1800s to try and squash, to come out as pro business. Whereas Biden, while he's still pro business and shit, he's not pulling out labor laws and strengthening them from the fucking 1880s. A big example of this was the Railroad Labor Act, which was nothing to do with the railroads, but it was used by Trump to squash, like, airline organizers and stuff like that. See, it makes no fucking sense. So, that's that. But not to get on that side tangent. Basically, I don't always win every grievance I go in with. The NLRB can come in, put an arbitrator in that's clearly pro business, and they'll squash whatever grievance I'm trying to get done, and that'll that's how the state really hampers unions, workers' rights advocacy and stuff like that. Like, that's a tangible example of, like, state repression for working class guys.
Right.
But beyond that, to get more to the point, like you're saying, you're getting these big payouts on grievances. Yeah, we're going to get big payouts on grievances. Absolutely. If I can get my guy fucking 100K, I'm going to get him 100K. It's not realistic. That's never going to happen. What we're talking about is I might get a guy a whole extra paycheck because he's been, let's say it takes 3 months for me to get through this grievance process. That guy needed that paycheck 3 months ago. So, of course, I'm going to get a penalty pay on there. I'm going to get interest applied, shit like that. Because that man, now he's back on his bills. Now he's getting penalties from his the electric company or some crazy shit, or he had to go a month without paying his rent. Now he's got to pay double rent and shit. So, this is the situations that guys are dealing with. That's why you're seeing these big payouts. It's like pro management propaganda to be, like, focusing on, like, the grievance process. The grievance process exists because management's fucking up. Now, so that's the number one thing, is, like, a lot of times it comes from, like, top down management shit. Like, the guys at the top decide, hey, yo, fuck you. We want to cut back hours and shit. So, we'll pay a penalty, because in the long run we figured out that it's even if we have to end up paying that grievance, it's cheaper than having to have to pay these guys to stay on the clock. Because beyond your hourly wage, there's a lot of things that the company pays behind the scenes. So for every hour worked, there's an amount of money that goes into your health and benefits plan, i.e. your health insurance. There's a certain amount that goes into your, depending if you're opted in, like your 401k and shit, or whatever. I don't know if UPS is on pension. It just depends on the region. Some of them are on pension, some of them are not. So, there's other things that the company is paying behind the scenes. Per hour of labor worked, they pay a certain amount for unemployment insurance. Like, there's a lot more that goes into an employee's what a company is actually paying to employ somebody beyond just the hourly wage. So in some instances, it is cheaper for them to pay it because when they're doing a payout, they're not paying out all that other shit on a grievance. They're just paying out base wages.
So to take this a little more broadly, you would probably say the NLRB under the Biden administration, they've been pretty lenient. Would you say that when it comes to being amicable to the demands of unions?
Fuck no.
Oh, really?
I would say they're more lenient than maybe the Trump administration was.
Right.
But in the past 20 years, we ain't had I would say since fucking,
well, if
long time.
If you had to compare it to Obama, is it pretty much the same or is it worse under Biden?
I would say it's a little worse.
Okay, that kind of makes.
But I would say it's pretty much the same. But there's more shit going on right now, I feel like, than there was under Obama's administration.
Right. Yeah.
And Obama was pretty friendly with he had a pretty decent NLRB.
So because what I'm noticing with the Democrats is, and all the major liberal press is even admitting this, they seem to be taking a more pro-business orientation as of recent. And have you seen that reflected in any way when it comes to
You're saying with the Democrats?
Yeah, that they've been taking.
Oh, absolutely.
More, yeah. What are some examples of that?
Well, I feel like on a national scale. I can give you one example right now, which is that I work for a company, right? I'm a truck driver. I drive an 18-wheeler. You know, I'm a mecha tanky. I'm out here. I'm a space Cambodian and shit. Yeah. So, you know, we have this in our contract. We have that. All right, let me get into this in a more. Here's the grievance that we took to arbitration recently. So to give you like a snapshot of like what the NLRB is up to. So we had a grievance filed, right? So we have these things called a geotab in our vehicles. It's a GPS monitoring device, so that way the company knows where the truck is, where it's headed, and shit like that. And there's reasons why they have to have this. I mean, I'm pretty sure first off, it's fairly required at this point to some extent. Like they have to know where the truck is. But also, like, this helps them, like, being able to plan from a company perspective. This helps them in their day-to-day operations, like planning when a load is going to get somewhere or not, and stuff like that, so they can alert suppliers and shit like that where you're going to be dropping off your stuff. Oh yeah, my guy's about an hour out or whatever. So there's reasons they need to have this. This is, you know, and we've agreed, you know, you can have this monitoring stuff. I mean, we find it a little invasive and shit, but that's, you know, we can understand the actual tangible need for this. Now, we had a separate thing where we're idling our trucks, okay? Because it's 100 fucking degrees out, or really this kicked off in winter. So it's freezing, it's snowing, and we're having to sit for a prolonged period of time while we're waiting to get in a door to unload, right? So we're idling our trucks, keeping ourselves from freezing, all right? You know, we want to not be 0 degrees, you know, and sitting in our trucks for an hour. So we're idling our trucks. Now the company comes in and says, "Oh, whoa, you know, the idle times are excessive. You know, we're having to pay gas for that." You know, it's like, okay, but what do you want? You want frozen drivers? Like, what do you want? So we were like, yeah, okay, well, I mean, we implemented this program where we incentivize workers to reduce their idle time when it's not needed. So basically, we get like bonuses, little tiny bonuses. It only really amounts to a couple $100, like a month, maybe maximum, if you're like really working it, to like turn your truck off when you don't need it running. But it's not required. It is not a required thing, right? So it's not in the contract, any of that shit. So they have no recourse to actually enforce this. So we have our geotabs in these trucks. On these geotabs is a speaker, which now, because company decided that wasn't good enough, even though they agreed to it, they decided to unilaterally, without union involvement, start penalizing people in a very real way for idling their trucks. And their way to penalize people is, now, if your truck idles for more than 3 minutes, your geotab that is a part of your truck will blare an alarm nonstop until you turn the truck off.
Jesus, yeah.
I'm talking about full on, you know, alarm clock in the morning.
That's fucking nightmare, yeah.
Right. So we said this is fucked and this is bullshit, and we're going to use our language in our contract to fight this. And our contract says that we view it as a form of harassment from management. Yeah. Okay, so we use the language that says this is harassment. You know, this is retaliation for us not doing something that's not even in the contract. So we use that language to file a grievance. We went through it. Guys from our union, business manager and shit, yeah. Our union reps and shit, they're backing it 100%. We're taking it all the way. We've been in grievance negotiations like 3 times over the matter. It's not going anywhere because management's stonewalling us. We say, fuck this, we're going to bring it to arbitration. This is an open and shut case because none of this shit that they're doing is in the contract. We say it's retaliation. It's pretty clear it's retaliation. They put out memos and shit, basically using language of retaliation. So we got all this evidence. We walk into that arbitration, and we get some glasses-wearing fuck from D.C. for the NLRB, and she's like, well, I don't know why you guys can't work this out amongst yourselves. We don't really understand why we need to be involved in that. Bitch, that's your job.
That's your job.
Right.
We've been trying to work this out amongst ourselves. Company's not playing ball.
My observation, and tell me if you agree, is that under Trump, because he was just filling his whole administration with GOP, just bread and butter GOP people, it was really bad for, it was really bad NLRB, it was really bad for organized labor, but it was just an outdated form of GOP, pro-business politics. Whereas I feel like the Democrats are starting to update their party program and their policy and their orientation to be pro-business in a way that's like that's up to date, if you get what I'm saying. Like, they're kind of formalizing
it's a new way.
A new coat of paint, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. Because them saying, oh, well, we don't feel like we need to get involved, they're not taking the pro-company side.
Right.
Explicitly. Yeah. But they realize that the ramification of them not wanting to get involved simply means that whatever the status quo is going on is going to continue, which is the company's fucking us in the ass. So you know.
So communal intelligence, if you were going to say something, or?
No, I just have a question because it's related to the kind of shit that they have to deal with. And really quickly, Joe, I'm the kind of soup that I give my name willingly to all the people who ask me my name when they see me working. I hate those supervisors who like make it difficult for people to get their names, because hey, there's like people who will not disclose their names, or like they'll say, oh, you can ask someone else for a minute, because they're, you know, the person, they know that the person is trying to grieve him, whatever. But I don't give a fuck. Anyway, so I was just going to say,
we got, you know, management tries to obfuscate so that you don't have you got to have certain information to file a grievance. Like, it's formalistic paperwork. So if I don't have your name, I can't fucking do anything. I got to go and search for it. It makes it a whole process. So yes. And I will say, you know, to your credit, I wanted to come in and kind of clarify some shit, because I heard some sort of management speak shit going on, and I was a bit upset. But I'm glad that, you know, you're a rational guy, and like at the end of the day, you know, you're a supervisor at UPS and shit, but you still seem to have like that pro worker attitude. It's kind of like you know, what was it, Zhao and Lai shit. Like, you know, he comes from the nobility, but you know, he's speaking for the peasantry and shit. You know, I respect that. I respect that.
Yeah, my dad is in the union. My dad is a brownie driver, and he doesn't have AC in his truck. And check this out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that the language in the contract is that they're going to require, starting 2024, to any new brownie delivery trucks, package cars that they call it, they are going to be, they're going to have AC units. But 2 years ago, UPS bought thousands, a fleet of package cars, and they all don't, they're new, and they all don't have the AC units. So unless they break down, like really break down, and to get a new one, then they will get replaced with one with AC unit. But like,
yeah, they do this shit on purpose. They do this shit on purpose. Because your contract, I believe you're on a 3-year rotation with UPS. So they line up their truck purchases till directly after the last contract. So it ensures a fuckery whenever it comes to the next time, because that's exactly the shit they're going to pull in negotiations when Sean O'Brien sits down to negotiate that national contract. UPS fuckers are going to go, oh, well, you know, Sean, that's really difficult for us, because we just bought all these trucks. Fuck you. We don't give a shit. We're workers. We don't give a fuck about your company. We give a fuck about our rights.
So Joe, since you're in the Teamsters, do you have any insight into the factors, and specifically, where was this push for a strike from UPS coming from? How was that?
You know, like I said, I am not in the UPS, but I am in the Teamsters, right? So who I am associating with is the union officials, because when it comes to UPS, when it comes to my job, I know every guy on my job. I got 120 drivers. I represent. I'm the third shift steward. I represent about 40 guys directly, and as a steward, part of the negotiating team and shit, I collectively represent all of my guys. All right. So when that's my company, right? That's my company. All right. But when it comes to UPS, the only guys I have the ability to talk to at this stage, at this moment, is the reps, the guys from the hall. Right. And I can tell you 100%, whether there is push from the rank and file for this strike, which personally I believe there is, because I don't have any reason to doubt, at least, because obviously, you know, there's some fuckery when it comes to Teamsters, maybe nationally speaking, maybe, I don't know fucking Sean O'Brien, I've never met the man, but, so I can't speak to his character, I don't know what he's on, but when it comes to your business manager, you know, the guys who are the union rank and file union sort of not the membership, but the guys who are at the hall, who work at the hall, who work for Teamsters. Those guys are emphatically in favor of a strike. They are whipping up the guys on the job site. You know, they're help. Like when it comes to my company, we're probably going on strike this year too, because we're on a 3-year cycle, and we're negotiating our shit early. We may be going on strike, and that's why I ain't disclosing my company name, because maybe management's watching. I don't know. Point being is we're probably going to go on a strike. We're whipping up support for a strike because we got such a dog shit contract too, because inflation and everything else is fucking us in the ass. So, and where on my job, where is that coming from? That's coming from me, a rank and file guy who got elected to got put into a steward position based on the fact that I was pro strike. And the stewards are elected. They're elected from the membership. So this is, the unions are one of the most democratic organizations in the United States. I'd say it's more democratic than the country at large, in my opinion. One man, one vote. That's how the union works. We don't got no fucking electoral college bullshit. So when it comes down to, what UPS maybe is going on, in my opinion, if the last people to get on board normally are the guys in the hall. They're going to listen to their membership though, and I feel like personally, seeing how fervent they are for a strike, this got to be coming from rank and file.
Yeah, and so basically, the best speculation is that it's because of inflation, more or less, and the rising costs of living that have been happening.
I think you're going to see a wave of strikes this year, over the next year to 2 years, and I think that's mainly has to do with inflation. But I think UPS is a bit more unique in a way because I do
too, because it's a strategic sector of the economy, and
not only that, not only that, but I feel like personally, as a truck driving guy, I would never fucking work for UPS. Holy shit. The way they abuse their employees it's on a whole other level.
Right. And but the real question is there a possibility that Emergency Railway Act is invoked or some equivalent to it, because this strike wave might be construed as posing a threat to national security?
So, as I understand, they don't have, because we had a UPS general strike in '97.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, and in '97, they could have got away with squashing that strike a lot more than I feel like they could have got to get away with it now. Frankly, from a executive branch perspective. Now, if you want to talk about national security and shit like that, I mean, not to get all tinfoil hat shit. I mean, that has a lot to do with, in my opinion, what's gonna go. Like, if we were to escalate in Ukraine. All right, I'm gonna just come out and say, like, if we were to escalate in Ukraine, I could see Biden doing that.
Right.
Because then he has the ability to.
Well,
but as it stands right now, there's no other form of legislation like the Railroad Labor Act that would apply to a nationwide package delivery service. Like, they were able to apply that to, so, like, I don't want to get into the specifics of the Railroad Labor Act. It's very complicated, but basically that has to do with organizing shops, like, not with negotiating contracts.
Right. And but see, the weird thing with that one is that it was in the name of national security. If you look at the language of the thing that was passed, that's why I'm thinking, like, would we see more kind of uses of government power to, to squash this in the name of national security, or is that possible?
I personally think that if any president, GOP or Democrat, can use a huge sweeping labor law like that to squash a strike, they absolutely 100% would. I don't think that it's possible if the UPS was to strike today, I don't think it's possible. But that, things change.
So
I mean, like I said, if things escalate with Ukraine or something, I could see some form of, them using shit like that.
So right now, labor has all the leverage, basically. They'll just get whatever they want, basically.
They have leverage. I wouldn't say it's to that extent, because part of having these negotiations, they are monitored by federal bodies and shit like that. The union has to appear like. This is how fucked labor laws are in the United States. We have to, when we're negotiating a contract, we can't say, yeah, we want this, we want it all, we want it now type shit. There's actual, like, legal ramifications to these things. So when I walk into a contract negotiation, if I, like, if I say I want the moon and fucking everything else, we're going on strike, it's considered a bad faith negotiation.
Yeah.
And we can have our strike petition denied.
Well, I mean,
because we didn't actually like attempt to in good faith.
I get it, but obviously
like
the push for a strike is coming objectively from a good faith
Mm-hmm.
place. So I'm saying, based on the demands of the workers right now, they're
Right.
pretty much gonna get what they want if they go on strike. Like,
Yeah, I wish I was at my house right now, because Teamsters actually mailed out to all of its membership, UPS or not, a special, because we get a thing like a Teamsters magazine every month. They sent out a special edition from the National that highlights, like, it's a whole magazine just about UPS Teamsters. I don't know if you would have it or not. I mean, your dad would probably have it, but yeah, they laid out, like, in that, and I read the whole thing cover to cover a couple times. Like, they laid out their well thought out positions, and like, from my perspective, all the shit they're talking about is legitimate. Like, there's nothing that's like in bad faith. Like, they're not asking for like we want to fucking make UPS a fucking cooperative or some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Even 30 hour, I'm sorry if I may, even a $30 an hour is reasonable because of how they operate their businesses. I'm sure he's familiar with like what he just talked about, the cutting people's hours and everything to balance out their business plan. So for example, the contract guarantees 3.5 hours of work per if you're a union member, right? So 5 days a week, that's 17.5 hours. Right now, the contract in Massachusetts between the union and UPS guarantee is a $16 base pay, but there is an MRA, market rate adjusted pay that is being offered right now, which is $24 an hour. So if you work in the twilight or day, you make $24. If you work in the midnight, you make $25 an hour. So they're trying to but this is just an MRA given by UPS management. So now the contract says 16. They're trying to push for, I think it's 21 or keep it at it was to keep it the MRA, but now they're pushing for $30 an hour because of the fuckery that they pull inside of the operation. So, for example, a person would bring in $420 a week, and that's like without paying taxes and their union dues, which is taken out once a month. At $20 an hour, they make $420. At $30 an hour, they would still make $525 a week. And UPS, they would give them a livable wage with that amount of hours. They are always offering like extensions in other shifts, so they have opportunities to work more hours. And I don't know, all around I think it's a fair deal, because if you're gonna follow the business plan this aggressively and you're cutting people that aggressively, then at least give them $30 an hour to make a decent wage at 17.5 hours a week. Then do the shit that they do now, which is overwork everyone, and so go on.
So I'm curious, is there a lot of crossover? Like, forgive me for sounding ignorant, is FedEx similar to UPS? Or is there like a drastic, and also with Amazon, is there, but I know Amazon's not unionized for the most part.
FedEx isn't unionized either.
So, okay, that's interesting. So FedEx is not, and are there attempts to unionize FedEx, or?
There have been in the past. It's basically FedEx and UPS fill the same role. It's viewed that like FedEx is basically just the non-union UPS, like that's the union mentality, and like they've tried in the past to organize FedEx, but what happens is you get a contingent of workers that leave UPS, and this happens, like people who are like fucking brainwashed and against union, like being in unions and shit, like deep south. I mean, that's where I grew up. Like that's just the mentality. So you get guys who were
higher turnover, is what you mean, or?
No, I'm saying at FedEx, if you hate UPS because you hate unions, you go work for FedEx.
Okay,
like so it's more difficult to organize FedEx because that's like where all the anti-union people who want to do the same type of work come to.
Why people don't like the union at UPS, that they go work at FedEx? Is just because of
I don't.
dues, or?
It comes to ideology, really. Like, because I've organized a lot of shit in my past, and like I'm organizing shit now. Like when you're an organizer and you go into a room full of people and talk to people about unions and shit, it really comes down to there is a big thing of just like people who are brainwashed from like shit from like the Reagan era about unions are corrupt shitholes that don't do anything for anybody. They just fuck workers over. And to be fair, there has been instances where unions have fucked their workers over. I am 100% not saying like, the unions are the greatest, God's gift to fucking earth or some shit. But that's not the norm. But that's how it's portrayed to working class people a lot of times.
But at FedEx, in terms of material interest, do they get paid better or the same at FedEx compared to the unionized position at UPS?
From my understanding, FedEx workers make slightly less. In some, it's kind of very, very regional specific because they don't have like a national across the board contract or anything like that. They have no contract because they're non-union. So FedEx can kind of just pay people whatever they want. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's nothing holding them accountable to pay a specific wage. And on top of that, looking beyond just pure wages, unions offer a lot better benefit packages, retirement packages, and stuff like that, just as a across the board. Like I have Team Care, which is the Teamsters' own health insurance policy. It's some of the best healthcare I've ever had. It's phenomenal healthcare. You're not going to get that from FedEx. You're not going to get that from a non-union company.
So, so in the event of a strike at UPS, and if it ever got to the point where it's going to need popular support, so it might run into an issue where people at FedEx might not be sympathetic or not just at FedEx, but just, across the industry.
If you're talking about they're not going to give a fuck. Frankly, and they're probably going to be trying to scab routes and shit like that. That's where it comes down to. Because if you're trying to get a package moved because you're a company that's not FedEx or UPS, you're trying to move your shit, and UPS is on strike, you're gonna fucking scab your work out to FedEx or some shit. Right. You're not gonna.
So this is a Teamsters thing then, basically. It's not going to be like an industry-wide.
No, FedEx ain't going to join in on this. It's going to be, and it's not even just going to be me working for a different, truck company. I'm not going to be on strike just because UPS is on strike.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
this is probably not going to escalate beyond UPS, and obviously not beyond the Teamsters. Then, right?
No, I don't think it's going to cause like some general strike situation. But what I do think it's going to do is it's going to be one of the big strikes of like our generation, if you will. Like this is like if UPS goes on strike today, like it's going to be something that like
the U.S. economy 100%.
In a way, yeah. But also it's gonna elevate that. What's the term? Union consciousness. It's going to elevate guys thinking about, damn, like, them guys held their nuts, went out to the strike line and fought for what they fucking believe in. I want to be like that.
Yep.
This isn't that barista shit. This isn't that. This is real working class, Joes out holding their nuts, fucking fighting for what they need. So this is actually going to, unlike the barista shit or whatever, or the student fucking organizing on campus. I don't give I'm a blue collar man. I never been to college and shit. I don't give a fuck about that. What I give a fuck about is real working class Joes out there, getting the bag for management. And so this is gonna, if I was a non-union guy, I'd see that and I'd be like, damn, that's admirable. I want to be like that. Why aren't we got a union? Why don't we got a union in my place? Why aren't we fighting like them?
So I know we're talking about UPS, but for example, at FedEx, are the same grievances people have there, or?
I mean, that's kind of how we from kind of a Marxist perspective, that's kind of how labor works, isn't it? You got the same form of alienation that occurs at UPS that occurs at FedEx. But whereas at FedEx, you've got no representative, you've got no way to collectively with your coworkers kind of fight against that alienation.
Yeah, like for example, I'm just gonna give a quick example. Like whereas at UPS, say you come in for your 5 o'clock shift at 7 o'clock, they ask you to go home. You got bills to pay. You say no, I want to stay on the clock, and then so they can't force you out. Whereas at FedEx, if they're not, I don't know how they track their production metrics, but if they're not, if it's not cutting it. And they gotta send 25 people home, and you're one of them. You gotta go. There's no one to protect you.
So Joe, I'm kind of curious. It's not related to FedEx. Sorry, it's not related to UPS. Your company, are there a lot of owner operators, or are all the trucks company owned?
I'm sorry, what was that? I missed what you just said. I'm sorry.
All the trucks are company owned at where you work, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna see that. So like I've full disclosure, like I've not always been a gorilla, because I didn't always know about you, but I'm a truck driver, so I drive fucking, sometimes I drive 14 hours a day. I use my whole clock sometimes, because you can only drive 14 hours a day maximum. So what I've been doing over the past couple months since I heard about you is I've been going back and watching a lot of your fucking content, right?
Yeah.
So I've heard you talk in the past about like owner operators and stuff like that. So it's actually, in most instances, personally, I've not heard of it, but I'm sure it exists. Maybe I'm not entirely sure, but I've never heard of a situation where an owner operator is in the Teamsters union, and the reason for that is because companies that utilize owner operators, they don't treat them as employees; they treat them as contracted labor. Right. So they can't I'm sure Teamsters would love to have every truck driver in the fucking country in the union, but it makes it extremely difficult for Teamsters at all to include owner operators into the union, just from a legal perspective, because they're not classified as hourly workers, and that's how the union organize hourly workers. Like that's just that's the fundamental issue.
In terms of Teamsters, I mean, I think about it, and it's like, this is going to be a Teamster strike. Teamsters as a union, are they excited to do this? Are they reluctant to do it? Or what are the incentives for Teamsters?
So are you saying, what's the incentive for the organization of the union itself?
Yeah.
Beyond the membership, just like the actual...
Beyond the membership.
The incentive is... we can get cynical in a way and say when the wages increase for the workers, this is just a pure economics thing. This is a cynical view, and this is not the view I hold. But from a perspective of the union, when wages increase, so do union dues, because union dues are a percentage of your income.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to get more money, sure. But personally, that's not the reason. Teamsters Union is an organization of fucking workers. They're an organization of fucking truck drivers. Like I said, unions are one of the most democratic things in the United States. They're not super democratic. There is some bureaucracy. I give you that, absolutely. But they're more democratic than anything else we have in this country. So trying to say, like, what is the incentive of the union as trying to alienate that in a way from what is the incentive of the fucking guys holding their nuts at the job doing the fucking work? I feel like it's in a way, there's really no way you could separate that. Teamsters Union's incentive to do this is because that's what the rank and file fucking wants.
What are the primary ways Teamsters expand nowadays? How do they see that as like the...
So as an organizer who goes out and goes to job sites and talks to guys about joining the union, that's exactly how we do it. Mm-hmm. Like I'll go out, like I was just out at this one company. They move. They're a transport company that works moving UPS packages. Like they're an overflow company. When like basically UPS in my area knows that they can't meet the capacity of moving the mail and shit as they are, so they contract it out to a company. And they have, and like it's a consistent contract, they always have work and shit. It's not just like we're going to contract you here for 6 months and then you're done. Like they've been doing this job for a couple decades now. So like I went out and talked to these guys, and there was basically what we need is we need one person who works at the company to call their local Teamsters union and say, hey, I'm out here, I want a union, and we will put all the fucking resources we got into organizing that job site. So where it comes from its inception is from the rank and file.
Yeah.
Is from not even the rank and file. It's guys who aren't union who are at a job site and say, damn, I could use a union. They call us, we come in guns blazing, and we get the shit done.
So politically speaking, I know there's a lot of political or ideological factors when it comes to this stuff. You would say, is the Teamsters still solidly Democrat, right?
So here's the thing. The union officials will tell you to vote Democrat, right? Because in their views, that's the best they got as far, because the GOP actively tries to push for shit like national right to work, which would destroy unions, shit like that. We don't want that shit. So based on that alone, we support the Democrats. But it's not like we love the fucking Democrats. Most of the time, we don't get along with the Democrats because they do shit like I was talking about with like arbitration shit. So it's not like we've got this great relationship. Now, we will say outwardly, Joe Biden's great and shit, like from a union, from like the union establishment, if you will, like the guys who work at the union halls and shit like that. They'll be like, yeah, we got to vote for. And I'll talk with my business manager bluntly, and I'll be like, man, they're fucking us. And he's like, yeah, they are fucking us. I 100% fucking agree. You know, like I hate the Democrats, but at the end of the day, the GOP is worse. Right. So it's a marriage of convenience.
As we're witnessing a political realignment, I notice, with Democrats becoming more pro-business, the GOP is kind of going through a civil war right now, right? The traditional voter base of the GOP is completely shifting.
Well, that's what I wanted to say really quick, is the rank and file, they were on the Trump train.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah. So every motherfucking truck driving Teamster I ever talked to, they're on that Trump train.
Okay, so
that's where you see that revolt. Yeah. You see that revolt.
That's what I wanted to talk about. So both of you guys, I want to, because Communal has probably got info on this too at UPS. So you got a situation at Teamsters where you have people who are both pro-union and pro-Trump, or does one come at the expense of the other?
That is almost every single guy on my job site is pro-union and pro-Trump.
So that's incredible, because when we're looking at this civil war in the GOP, if Trump came out as a pro-union guy or a pro-worker in the sense of pro-labor, you're saying that would already have a really fertile soil.
It already does. It already does.
Well, let me tell you one thing. You get Trump to be pro-labor, come out as pro-labor, that problem of FedEx and all those people who are against the trade union consciousness and stuff, that disappears overnight. All of them get on board with organizing.
I'll take it a step further, and I'll say, look, the reason my Teamster brothers on the job and sisters, I don't want to discount that. My fellow Teamsters, the reason they're pro-Trump is they hate the establishment. Mm-hmm. Most of them never voted before Trump. Yeah. This is that working class that doesn't vote. This is them.
Yeah.
They don't have the only other time they maybe voted was because the union pushed hard for them to vote for a specific candidate, and maybe they caved in. But so it's not because they give a fuck.
Yeah.
But I want to take it a step further and say they vote for Trump not really just based on his pro-worker rhetoric, because they're fucking patriots, man.
Yeah.
They're fucking patriots. That's the reality. Yeah, and maybe they're reactionary patriots in a lot of ways. I'm not saying they're fucking Nazis and shit. That's retarded. I'm saying like they got some reactionary views, of course, whatever. But they're patriots at the end of the day. They give a fuck about their country, and so that's why they vote Trump. And that's really what it comes down to. And like I said, by and large, the majority of them never voted before Trump.
So that's real interesting, because we talk about the idea of MAGA communism. Now, people get caught up in the ideology and the labels, but it's a strategy to consolidate the working class base of Trump. And it sounds like this is the fertile soil for that kind of thing. And here's the thing.
I'm gonna take it even a further step than that. I said, if you come down to my strike line, if we go on strike and you come down to my strike line and you talk to the boys about MAGA communism, I guarantee you it's going to be like that Trump rally you went to. Every motherfucker on the strike line is going to agree with that shit.
We are probably going to do that. That's the plan, really, very soon. I mean, we're talking the next few months. We're going to be setting up an organizational apparatus to be doing things like that on a national level, So I would love to get more in contact with you, and maybe we could even organize something together, maybe in the future.
I am 1,000% down with bringing. I've hit you up in the past.
I'm so sorry. Where did you contact me? Was it?
I've done some super chats that you've responded to, and I've hit you up on Twitter actually.
What's your username on Twitter?
It's my real name, so I don't want
to. Okay. Yeah, just send me another DM. It's probably in my requests, and it'll bump
Yeah,
to the top.
I'll send you one right now, just so that while I'm talking or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll just ping you basically.
Yeah.
But I just want to
mention
this
sorry,
and say I just want to add, because he is right. Like UPS is, or not UPS, but Teamsters. These people, they are the fertile ground for MAGA communism. Like I said, I worked in that warehouse during the pandemic. A lot of people didn't buy the rhetoric that the government and these corporations were feeding them. A lot of them worked alongside me without masks. And I would ask, like, don't you want to use a mask? And people were like, nah, they're just full of shit. A lot of people had that kind of sentiment. And you see InfoWars stickers all over the warehouse.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen Ukraine stickers, no more. The InfoWars stickers remain. I've seen the tranny flag stuff all over the place. They get taken down. Like, people there are pro-Trump, but I'll tell you this: 3 weeks ago, I wore a MAGA hat to work on a Friday. Because he was like, they made a little thing, it was like Hawaiian Shirt Friday. I wore a MAGA hat, and I got an ethics complaint against me because there are a couple people that work next to me who are one of those like pro-LGBTQ people. And I was like telling everyone, I would say, oh, if I wear a pride hat, I'm sure those guys wouldn't have said anything. But I wear a MAGA hat, and they're all supportive of me, and they're all saying, yeah, we're all going to wear our hats. And so it's like that. Like, people are ready for something like Trump, or a figure like him saying, yes, I am pro-labor, I'm pro-union, or something along those lines.
That's what MAGA needs. It needs a labor caucus, and labor needs an organized political interest, and that's how you consolidate. That's what MAGA communism always was. It wasn't some like crazy ideology. It was always about politically organizing the working class, possibly leading to a new party, and MAGA's destroying the GOP from within. You know, so This is what we're talking about, and you get that pro-labor and pro-MAGA thing actually given a political existence, and best case scenario, give it recognition by the MAGA, you know, by Trump himself. I don't know if that would ever happen. You at least put that out there and make it a thing. It's like suddenly it's a lot easier to organize people at FedEx. Because a lot of those FedEx people are probably anti-union because of their, you know, proximity to the GOP. But there's such a political realignment going on that all those workers that Reagan duped, it's the charm is wearing off now that you have an anti-establishment guy like Trump. And now that you have this is what I always hypothesize, that MAGA is a primitive form of working class consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say, is that this is that, conceptualization of working class consciousness. Now, they don't realize they're working class in a way, like they don't realize they're a collective, but this is the individualistic expression of that idealized working class consciousness. This is a reaction to, and that's why Trump's movement is inherently reactionary. It is a reaction to the fact that working class guys are tired of getting dicked by the establishment, and they want to revolt, but they don't have no champion, and Trump's the only one that's really speaking to them in a way, because he falls outside of the norms of political society. So that's why they see him as a champion in their own right. Now, I don't like Trump. Trump's dumb. Trump's dumb as shit in a lot of ways. Like he's a snake. You want to talk about a snake? Trump's a snake. Absolutely. And you've outlined this in your Substack. It's not about Trump. It's about the working class movement.
Exactly.
And I would take it to the point of saying MAGA. Like you say, MAGA is a working class movement. What does Lenin say when see, we got to move past like the binary thinking. Okay, so what Lenin was saying when he said work in the reactionary trade union, he doesn't care how reactionary a trade union movement is. You got to fucking insert yourself and work in it. Like when he said that shit, it's the same shit that applies to MAGA. That is an organic working class movement, and you got to work inside of it. That's why I reject any fucking. That's why really the only two groups I talk to, the only two groups I work with. I've been working with Eddie over at Midwestern Marx.
That's
and I like talking with you. And this is I'll put it out there because I hit you up in the DMs about this shit. But I've been working with Midwestern Marx, and like I've had conversations about infrared, and I don't know. I think maybe there's some room for some collaboration, and maybe that's what I was hearing from guys within the MWM. I'm not going to drop names in the VC here, but
Yeah,
there's some interest.
Yeah, I mean, look,
So
if we get something like this going, it's going to be an obvious avenue for collaboration. I mean,
well, I
we want the
invited
same
them out
thing.
to my strike line, and just like I'm out here in public, I'm saying I'm inviting you to the strike line. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
and
absolutely.
they already said 100% they're going to come. So
Yeah, I mean, when is this going to be? Or
right now we've just entered the contract negotiations for my place. And I mean, I can't necessarily say it out loud.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, we can talk about it.
I can talk to you about behind the scenes about this shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is like exactly what we're talking about. I mean, MAGA. The thing about MAGA, people didn't understand this. I'm not saying Trump's a good guy. I'm saying this country's been divided into two in terms of, do you trust the establishment or do you not trust the establishment? And MAGA is it's just a world outside of the establishment. I mean, it's not like there's a set in stone ideology. It's more like, I always like to call it a bizarro world, right? It's like a bizarro America where people are watching InfoWars, they're watching this, they're watching that, they believe in all these conspiracy theories, they believe in this, believe in that, but it's just all united by somehow being outside of that establishment. Reagan kept the workers in the establishment, right? Reagan, the new GOP, right? They all kept and consolidated workers. George W. Bush, he used this kind of vulgar chauvinism to get workers on board with war, right? Only with Trump, for the first time, do we have this space for a counter-hegemonic politics. We need to begin there. That's square one. Like, that's square one. Yeah, we don't want to put our all hopes in Trump, but it's like, that's our square one to build anything, in my view, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like I said, this is the organic expression of a militant, angry, disenfranchised working class.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I am launching a political organization of sorts. It's not going to be like a full-time professional kind of thing, but it's going to be a way for people to organize. And, I think...
I've been on board. I've been on board listening to this.
Yeah. So it's going to be decentralized as well. But this is going to be the avenue. We're going to be going to the workers. We're going to be going to the people. And it's fertile ground for exactly what we've been talking about. So I'm excited for the future. I mean, at UPS, at elsewhere, you know, this is exactly what Marxists have always been supposed to do. And I'm sure you're aware. Where are the so-called communists and the Marxists? They're over at Starbucks. You know, they're over at talking to people that already agree with them ideologically, but don't have any of the working class substance.
Don't even get me started on what CPUSA and Joe Sims and fuck, man. I'm 27. All right, I joined the CPUSA when I was 18. On my 18th birthday, I said, "Sign me the fuck up." Saluted the red flag. You know, the whole fucking works. And for about 3 years, I was in that party. I worked my ass off. I was in central fucking Florida. All right, you want to talk about... I grew up an hour from the highest concentration of the Ku Klux Klan in the United States, all right? So I'm in red blood fucking America, deep south shit, you know, with the most reactionary shit. And I was putting my nuts on the line, working day and night with CPUSA, trying to build shit, all right? And you know what ended up happening?
What's that?
They endorsed fucking Hillary Clinton, and every motherfucker with a brain left that shit.
Yeah. Because imagine working among workers and convincing them, I'm not one of those lizards and reptiles from the establishment. You make all this progress, and then this party comes and says, we're going to go for Hillary, you know?
Yep. And I said, and that was it for me. I was like, nah, this is bullshit. And a bunch of like-minded individuals, they pulled out of that shit. And they formed their own organizations, and you saw this kind of like shotgun effect. Yeah. Like every guy in fucking Frizzo PSL and all these other fucking organizations, if they were around in 2016, they were CPUSA members. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
You had that shotgun effect. Everybody fucking boom ran out of the party, went into their own shit.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm really glad we've got people, you know, who are on the ground, with all the knowledge and experience. Because guess what? When I'm talking about we need to build communism, I'm talking about we need to go to the workers, right? The real workers. No other communists are doing this. And that's what we will do. And that's what we're going to do. And that's what my eyes are set upon. That's what my goal is. And
I mean, like I said, I was in Central Florida, okay, and you want to talk about the corruption of CPUSA? Holy fuck! I mean, we had I've met Sam Webb several times, and I met him in his most relaxed state because they used the CPUSA in Florida. They used it as their fucking retirement time. They would use party funds to go on these retreats, and they would invite the local branches in Florida to come out to these retreats. And they'd throw all the membership money into these, expensive ass retreats, and they would just come down and like socialize, relax and shit. They did no party work using all these funds, and they would have us out there. And so I got to talk to people with like Sam Webb and shit, and they're more relaxed views, and they're just Gorbachev people. Like he was like, oh yeah, man, I went to the Soviet Union when Gorbachev was there, man. Shit was great. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you're talking about the gravedigger of the Soviet Union, and you're like, oh yeah, that shit was great. That was top. I'm like, you're actually retarded. Like you have nothing to say. You are actually a careerist, worthless piece of shit.
All right. Yeah. So regarding the current strike, is there anything you two would like to share or add that we haven't covered already? Or
so we kind of branched off of this, but like that, like I was talking about with the why they send people home early thing, just to. Finish that point because we never finished it. Like I talked about the first reason, which is the management top down, but also at the end of the day, I might get some pushback here, but like when it comes to management at the facility level, and I'm not saying about the guys who work on the floor. I'm talking about the guys in the office. They are by and large incompetent, and they will incompetent. Yep. Okay, so I'm glad we agree. So they'll short staff their production and shit like that just because they get bonuses and shit for trying to keep labor costs down. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
That's what I was trying. I mean, if someone were to listen to that's what I was trying to get at earlier with my opening, is go a little bit of like how the calculus is made to get their numbers, and so you have an idea of the kind of environment that is created inside UPS by them trying to achieve that every day, and they're largely incompetent. A lot of these people, for example, they are people who don't have college degrees, but they worked really hard, or they have a liberal arts degree. But a lot of them, and at least in the warehouse that I work, there's only one person with college degree. All of them don't have it. They are people who work hard, sure, but then they're like kept in their position, and so they feel like they have to do anything for UPS. Because they fear getting fired, because if they were to apply for a job at a similar rate and a different position, a different company, they don't have the qualifications. So they do everything for the company, but they're incompetent. They don't really have any idea of like how to plan or how to like manage people really. They just
I'm gonna put it into terms, frank terms. They're Jannies for free for the company. That's all it is.
That's it. Yeah, Missolisi. That's who they are.
Yup. Like if you ever talk to an actual like manager of like one of these facilities, like the manager at my facility is a fucking retard. Like they're so far. This goes into alienation. They're so far removed from like how the labor actually operates that they have no actual conceptualization of how shit is done.
So you have an idea of how it's done. They'll go to a computer, right? And then they'll like compute the PPH of every person in some area that they're responsible for. And if that person isn't performing well, regardless of weather, regardless of how the person is feeling, if they're hurt or anything, they'll just go and try to like micromanage the person or send them home or move into a different area. So that, or like trade people. They talk on the radios. Like I said, we communicate in the warehouse over the radios, and they talk about people like they're objects. Like, yeah, I'll trade you this guy for this other person. Oh yeah, he's a piece of shit. That's the kind of language that they have with respect to workers. It's a really shitty environment. So yeah.
All right, guys. I'm really glad you both came on. I'm real glad that we got this perspective, and I'm excited for the future. And as the situation unfolds, I don't think they've actually gone on strike yet. They haven't, right?
No,
absolutely not. No.
Yeah. So as that unfolds, when they do, it's going to reach national news and all this stuff. Yeah. So it's we got a guy from Teamsters, we got a guy from UPS, and I'm going to bring you guys back on to give updates on the situation as the thing unfolds. But Thank you
Oh
so
yeah.
much.
I mean,
guys.
normally I'm gonna say if it's not Saturday, normally I'm in my truck driving, but that's I'm getting paid to organize for MAGA communism. Man, sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just want to say one last thing. Rivers is a cuck. That's all. Have a good night, y'all.
Good night, man.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Okay. That was interesting. Okay. So I got some breaking information before we end this. Breaking news information, in case anyone's interested. There's talk of a potential strike. I can't disclose my source. Spreading to yellow freight workers. Yellow freight or Teamster guys. So it might not actually be limited to UPS. So I have a decent amount of people who work with Teamsters. We're going to pool all of our resources and efforts together. This is going to be part of our organization that we're launching. And this is what we're going to be doing. That's what MAGA communism is all about, guys. And like I've told you guys this many times, when we actually start doing this, after all this planning that's gone into it, we're going to take the fucking internet by storm. I don't give a shit what these people are saying on Twitter. I don't give a fuck about that, you know? When we actually, they're not going to be able to predict this, prepare for it. They have no way to cope about it. Don't even give them any attention, because this is the real shit we actually care about. We're going to take this whole fucking thing by storm. Everybody who doubted MAGA communism is going to eat shit. I can promise you that. They're going to eat shit. We will reach the workers. We will reach the working class. It is going to fucking happen. Nobody's going to fucking stop us. And that's the end of that. There's no fucking way this doesn't work.